the very outset, let me thank Mr. Dasgupta and IPAI for giving me this opportunity to be here and present to you some of the views. Hopefully, this may contribute some to the policy-making exercise in the country. And sure, I'll do that. I'd like to begin my presentation with really just a brief introduction. Why did we really need renewable energy and why we came across all the way here? And then I will present to you something, a solution, and later on I'll go towards what is being done proposed in the amendment case. So the outline will generally go through what's our goal, what are the drivers, and what was there as a provision, what issues we are facing, and what is being proposed and what needs to be done. Right? Drivers are fairly clear, of course. These are local as well as global environmental problem, energy security, accessibility, all those kinds of issues that we generally well know. The options before the policymakers have been both in terms of carrots and sticks. Carrots in terms of feed-in tariffs, or you can call sticks in terms of the obligations of RPO or RGO, and then some market instruments like RECs. There were also, of course, issues regarding distortions in energy pricing, and somewhere this has a reflection on what kind of energy efficiency we have. For that, separate steps have been taken. We have various provisions in pollution control boards regarding chimney height. CA has a notification about supercritical technology. BE has come up with star labeling and PAT scheme. That's all said and done. Coming back to the topic about renewable energy, the Electricity Act, Section 81 and Section 61 lays down that how much amount of energy which is consumed in the area of a distribution licensee that should be purchased by the obligated entities. The obligated entities itself went into some legal wrangles at some point of time because of one missing comma. Had there been one comma, we could have a different obligation seen altogether. There was also, of course, some other cases where it was mentioned that if somebody wants to generate and distribute electricity in a rural area, he doesn't need a license. These were the general provisions there. But what have been the challenges we have been facing? We have done well, no doubt about it. We have done very well in terms of growth of renewable energy. But coming from the economic efficiency perspective, the very first thing I always question is, are we really doing in the best way? Of course, we want to promote renewable energy. Is it possible that we can achieve it in more optimal fashion by spending less money so that consumers will have to be burdened less for the same good exercise of renewable energy? So I'll just question that. And the second thing is, which we have seen everybody talk about, is we have a missing RPO compliance. It's just not working. Why? Because first of all, most of them are publicly owned entities, and if they are private, there are questions about whether you can have penalty or not, the legal basis of that. I think it was mentioned in the morning also. Then, of course, every state had different kind of resource endowments, like Delhi, Chandigarh, or some states have good solar, some don't have, some have a mini hydro, but may not be having much of a biomass. And also there is a need to promote renewable energy, not just for this, but also for remote areas electrification. And remember that in those remote areas, the actual cost of delivery is perhaps 3 to 4 times, and that is largely being borne by the government as such, and in some cases by the consumers themselves, like we have examples here in Sundarbans. The first problem which I mentioned is, before that, let me just also tell you, is why this compliance is not happening. So I'll just pinch on that issue first. As a student of economics, most of you will always be aware there is something called supply curve, and there is a price and quantity. So P and Q combinations, they come together. And how does the process of setting RPO and feed-in tariff is done in regulatory commissions, even today? They will have one meeting, most likely, and they will work out, okay, what should be our RPO? 5%, 8%, 10%, some study done, the number is fixed. So Q is fixed. And then separately, we will do another exercise, and we will fix the P. So if you're trying to fix the P and Q separately, it's obviously not possible that they are going to meet. Sometimes either you are going to be doing more, sometimes you are going to be doing less. Somewhere there is no assessment of supply curve for that particular state. And that's the reason we have really seen failures of RPO compliance across most of the states. The second thing is, it is a small exercise I did with the help of one of our research associates, is look at this map, and this I'll just explain to you on this map, and there is another one, yeah, this one, sorry, yeah. So what you see is that because we have different level of radiations all across the country, in each state, to give investors a certain kind of return, because somewhere the radiation is less, you need to give a higher tariff. That's how he's going to break even for a particular amount, 15, 16% return. Which means if you are in Gujarat and Rajasthan, it's good, you can live with less tariff, but if you are going to Assam, you need to give more tariff. But let me give an example. Suppose somebody tells you that, okay, you have to buy 50 kg of sugar, you are going to the market, and you already know there is one shop just 4 blocks away, and that's generally the cheapest guy, and you have to buy 50 kg. And you go there, you find only 30 kg there. But there is another shop which has 80 kg stock left with him, but that's a little high price. What will you do? Will you go to the second guy and buy all 50 kg from there? Or you will say, let me buy 30 kg from the first guy, and the rest 20 I will buy from the second guy, isn't it? That's what you do in practice. Why shouldn't we do the same thing at the national level? Let's develop all the resources which are cheapest. And that's how we have been doing in our electricity planning also. The energy resource planning, generation planning, that's how it is done. We set up a power plant of NTPC somewhere, we say, okay, this is a coal mine, this is how it's going to be economical, we'll do it. Why don't we go in Himalayas to the highest reaches and try to develop our dams there? No, we say first it is economical right here, once the road is there, then we'll think about the next one and the next one. This is how we do it. But when we are doing it for renewable energy, every state wants to have a solar policy, everyone, right? Doesn't matter if it's 18 rupees or it costs 20 rupees, doesn't matter. I can accept there are some reasons, maybe you want to have local employment or whatever reasons. But let's look at this from the wind perspective also. Right? So if you are down there in the south in Tamil Nadu, you have excellent wind. CUF is very high, 22, 24%, 25%. So you need to you can satisfy the investors with a very less amount of feed-in tariff. But if you move up, the wind blows less, you move further up, it blows less, you go to MP, it's further less, you need to pay more energy. But why do we really want to develop wind capacity in MP till we have exhausted everything we could have done in Tamil Nadu or maybe somewhere else? Why do we want to do that? So there are sometimes different reasons. In fact, I have said this a couple of times in some other forums. About 3 or 4 years ago, I heard in the news, somewhere I read in the newspapers that UP government is also planning to come up with a kind of a wind policy. So I was quite happy about that. I said, fine, we have a lot of employment opportunity for people because they will have to really, create the winds there. Finally, it didn't work out, actually. There was no wind policy in UP. But the idea was that when we apply this economic efficiency in all other activities, why shouldn't we be doing it for renewable? Why should we get emotional with this because renewable energy is good for the society? And hence, let's throw out all kinds of money that we have. I think we have to really control our emotions there also. If we want to throw money, let's throw it efficiently. We shouldn't be throwing money inefficiently. The second reason is, this is a plant we visited in Ladakh 4 or 5 years ago. It was a rural electrification plant for about 9 villages, which replaced a 50 kilowatt diesel facility at that point. Ladakh is very good in terms of solar radiation, but we can't get it down here. Why? Because we need transmission investment there. But then I'll tell you, the same plant which is currently probably having a social cost of about 20 rupees, 25 rupees, social cost, which the government is bearing. We are not actually including in certain of our market instruments that I'll mention to you. I'll just give you this example of this particular side. So there was a solution. Is it possible to have a solution somewhere for these anomalies which we discussed? And this is something I wrote about, is what is currently known as renewable energy certificates. At that time, I called it renewable energy credits. So I wrote about this in 2006. And in 2009, this was taken up by the ministry that I was told last year, and how we have the market for RECs. And the concept is simpler. You have a green electricity and a gray electricity. The idea was that if you have green electricity, it's considered like a paint on the electron. It's a green paint. So if you just have a gray electron, you can just consume it locally and take the color off and put it on a piece of paper or electronically, just mail it somewhere else, and it's deemed to have been consumed elsewhere. This is just like simple like carbon credit, so this is nothing big deal about it. And the idea was picked up, and of course it was implemented, and it has many advantages if it implemented correctly. It of course does help you in better compliance. That is possible. I'll tell you what I suggested at that time to CRC and what was partly implemented, and that's why we are missing it. Not only that, it also has compliance, beyond compliance, you also have something called voluntary market. Why shouldn't I get only 8% green energy in this state, or 5%? My conscience says that I should have 50% green energy, but currently I don't have that option, isn't it? We have not created that option as of now. I have been saying this for ages. Finally, I am seeing it in this amendment now, which is being proposed in some form, which basically we can call as, can you have a green marketing, green electricity? Then, of course, the efficiency part I have just covered. The other important thing is when you have this renewable energy certificates, as the previous speaker was mentioning, there are price bands which were given. There's a different story about that price bands. But if you have a price band and you have a price then given over time, over a 4 or 5 number of years, and these are actually declining over time, you are actually setting targets for renewable energy equipment manufacturers. If you have to be in the market next year, you should be increasing the efficiency of PV by this. You should have a better cost competitiveness in selling your equipment. Otherwise, people are not going to really make investment using your equipment. So that's the kind of things we can clearly do. Of course, it avoids transmission and all those things. There were multiple number of suggestions which were handed over to REC, to CRC at that point of time about how this can be done. So we currently have a REC market, we have a solar and non-solar, which itself is not required. As you are clear, if you break sugar market into 2 markets, a big grain and a small grain, there is of course a market for that. But you see that if there are 2 separate stock exchanges, there is a little impact. Of course, it's too big now on the liquidity. But on an REC market, which is just beginning to grow, if you have 2 market platforms, the liquidity goes down and the competition goes down. And that's the kind of mistake we have done. In fact, in 2006, I had proposed that it is possible you can have only 1 REC certificate. So you can call, if solar is expensive, I need to give more support to solar. I can say an electricity 1 kilowatt or 1 megawatt generated, 1 megawatt generated from solar will be equivalent to 4 RECs. Wind is 1, municipal is 1.85, something else, biomass is 1.65 or whatever. See, so it's possible to have a single one. In fact, not only that, if you want, you can have a differentiation, and you can have a differentiation of a multiplier which keeps on decreasing. In some countries now, later I found out it's called banding. At the time, I didn't know about that. That's the kind of thing we are missing. The second important thing I'll mention is about, we are the only country perhaps in the world where we have a feed-in tariff-based mechanism as well as REC-based mechanism. And other countries, generally, you will find only one. But here also, in fact, we have missed the buzz. We can easily combine the 2 markets even today. And I have given this proposal, I don't know how many times, that all you need to just do is, all the RPO-based electricity which is being purchased by DISCOMs, just give them equivalent number of RECs. And this DISCOM simply goes RECs and he submits to the regulator, here it is. Now, if you notice the compliance market today in India, you will find at least 3-4 states which are doing more than their RPO. But they are stuck with that money. They have already purchased more wind, say in Tamil Nadu. So it means consumers in Tamil Nadu are actually bearing more cost due to better compliance. Shouldn't it be allowed that this DISCOM should be able to offload that REC somewhere? Isn't it? That should be much easier. Why? Because then at least the burden to my consumer is less, and I have been able to meet regulatory requirements also. This is something which is not yet happening. I hope it happens sometime in future. The second, another idea I have been telling that is something called buyout option. Now, whenever you don't have a compliance happening anywhere, you'll always say that somebody will say, look, it's not there. I was waiting, I was sitting on the table, nobody came to sell me renewable energy, so what? There is not my fault. So answer is simple. So regulator can say, look, this is the table in the next room, there is somebody sitting, he'll give you a green color paper and he will write a certificate, and this certificate will cost you 10 rupees. And I'll accept that certificate. This is the buyout price. This means in some sense the higher band of the REC, it has already been governed by the buyout price. Given that I am already looking at 10 rupees of foregone money, I'll obviously try to purchase something more. Or in future, you can declare it over a timeline where this compliance can be strengthened. Then there is another missing thing somewhere. This also I wrote in the 2006 paper, that we have so many activities going out all around the country. You know, we have solar water heaters, we have solar cookers, and then we have now BE coming up with PAD scheme. Why do we need so many schemes of these kinds? Why can't we have a single thing? REC PAD scheme can be easily combined. All you have to find is energy equivalence factor somewhere. So much of energy efficiency improvement is equivalent to so much of renewable energy. You can either measure in terms of carbon print of both of these. It's possible. You can have a single. So now we are trying with another separate market for PAT, where we are already struggling with REC market, and that still we will do most likely, but I don't know if we'll ever do combine it. But I found something interesting in the current proposed amendments. I'll tell you about that. There's something about pair, which also I proposed at some point. And what about standalone systems, the picture which I show you? Remember, as of now, the current REC framework doesn't allow these standalone systems to claim RECs. It is only possible for grid-connected systems. In fact, those are the systems which need more RECs more than anybody else. In fact, that should be recognized. Why shouldn't a local DM certify they have generated and consumed so many units of solar-based electricity in this remote area? Why shouldn't that be done? I think that's what is missing. Pair was basically meaning is that it was just like the CFL program which you see today. It was something similar idea that somebody does this CFL program and he just claims so many credits and he throws it onto the REC market. It's the same single instrument. It's not only that. The governments can actually use the same REC market for promotion. You need not give a subsidy to anybody. I simply go into the market. It's just like you have buyback kind of shares. I go into the market and I know I have 1,000 crore worth of total amount available, and which I want to give it to the renewable energy systems. And we all know how inefficient it is, that 1,000 crore never reaches the right person. But if I simply say I'll go and over a period of time, every month, I'll start buying REC certificates and I'll just tear them off. That's it. So I have transferred that much amount of money to the market. I need not be worried about the implementation part of so many subsidy schemes that we have, for which one whole ministry survives, which probably shouldn't have been there, isn't it? But they did some good things also at some point. So what are the amendments? Let's come to that. So first thing it says, of course, specifically this time it says we need solar energy for unelectrified rural households. I have a serious question on this, in fact. In fact, whenever you say for a standalone system, in fact, I promoted this idea at some point of time, frankly speaking, but I don't mind learning. This was a small exercise we did for vegetable mandis. I started writing some paper about that. It was like, this was for urban area, I didn't promote it for rural area. But now what's happening is, if we keep on saying all these villages which are not far away from, concentrated inhabitants, habitations, like 20 kilometers off Lucknow Kanpur road, you will find a village which is unelectrified. Sitapur, 15 kilometers from the city, you will find a village unelectrified. They're not very far from the city, actually. They're not even very far from the grid. But we say, okay, now we will have a solar plant there, and we will set up this system there, and there will be battery storage system, and they will get 4 hours of electricity, and public funding will be used for that. Why it is that we have the right to enjoy all kinds of stupid cereals 24 hours, and they don't have that kind of a right? They can't have, in future, a microwave oven. We want them to just live with 4 hours of electricity only for lighting purposes. I think there we are doing really a big social injustice there. And the idea I had proposed earlier for a business plan, which I presented once at an ADB conference, the idea was this, that all these kinds of plants are okay. You do, go ahead with this. But make sure once the grid reaches there, these all plants should be subsumed by the distribution company, like which is something in the morning which was also mentioned. So I had proposed this a few years ago also, that you can have a contract with the DISCOM right now. So I am your guy, I am just your agent, I am doing a PV-based electrification here, but if your grid reaches here, you just buy off either my assets based on some agreed price, or you keep on buying electricity from my plant at a pre-agreed price, and the regulator gives a stamp on that. That's the kind of things I think we should do. RGO has, especially in fact I'll say in the Indian context, given the kind of systems we have, probably RGO is better in our context. I'll come to that. But of course it is only says for certain thermal generations and not less than 10%, that's a serious thing, and of course it says thermal power. Again, that energy and power debate which was mentioned in the morning. I'll come back to renewable generation obligation in a while. And this is also related to the same thing, is that you can bundle it. So NTPC can set up a renewable power plant and it can bundle that and sell it off to their beneficiary states. The other thing was related to, okay, now this is something, it happens. I mean, I'm not saying this is something which is a big mistake. See, what it says is, there was already a provision existing. It says, if you are doing generation and distribution of electricity, you don't need license. Now it says generation and supply. Actually, we have missed distribution. That word should have been here, right? If you don't do that, this guy cannot do anything. He will have, for distribution license, he will have to run. All these small villages, they will have to run to the regulator to get a distribution license. So that word is missing here. For the first time, yes, REC has been recognized. It was never there earlier. It has been rightly recognized there. Now, this proposed amendment also talks about a market for encouraging energy efficiency in power. Look, what we are doing is, we are saying that there is a REC market, there is a PAT market, and there will be another kind of PAT market in the electricity sector. I don't know why we have so many kind of, multiple market instruments revolving around. We should have just one. But this is something which probably we'll have to do. Of course, there is also a new thing which talks about tax rebates and all kinds of things. And again, which I mentioned is, there are interventions possible directly to the REC market. You buy it off and tear off the certificates. And it is much more efficient. Of course, you will have to distribute it over time. Otherwise, this will also go for some kind of a market manipulation at who will actually be able to sell his certificates. Hydropower has been added. Earlier, actually, only simple cogeneration was not anywhere. It was only cogeneration for renewable energy which was to be promoted. Now, a non-renewable energy cogeneration is also supposed to be promoted. We don't know whether that will lead to crowding out of something. How do we define it? Who verifies that what is happening inside a plant? We have all kinds of issues there. Okay, now we also have a concept of renewable energy service company. In fact, but it has been left untouched. I mean, it just mentions somewhere, but doesn't tell specifically what the role of this company is. But I can tell you what probably they mean is like the green electricity marketing. So there could be somebody who will say, I will sell green power. By the way, don't be surprised in future if you see Shah Rukh Khan coming and giving, I buy green power to you. That's likely to happen. It will happen. I don't know it will be Shah Rukh Khan or who. Okay. Spinning reserve, I have a question mark. I don't know. Hardcore electrical engineers should look at that, but I have a question mark on that. Again, the same thing. If we have DDGs, are we really delaying this remote electrification? Why shouldn't we do that? There are countries which are talking about not just universal electrification, universal access to internet. It is there in Scandinavian countries. It is a right. It's your fundamental right. You need to have. And we are here just not even able to do this. I can assume maybe there are very few villages, 0.5% where we cannot do. But we can't be telling them just have this solar lantern and please, manage with your life all the way. I think at some point somebody will ask us this question. This is not really renewable energy, but it's an interesting thing which I found, which is a minimum ecological flow. This is important if you have a lot of dams coming across in Western Ghats, in Himalayas, and if you keep on milking a lot of dams, you have a serious problem about ecological life in the river bodies. And that's something interesting which I have found there. Okay. Well, RGO currently says, the renewable generation obligation says he has to set up a power plant. Why should it? We already have a REC mechanism that simply let it happen. I mean, I don't know why do we want to do this. Sometimes that's why, please don't mind, but sometimes that's why the whole particular one ministry is for promotion not of renewable energy, but for manufacturing of renewable energy equipments. We should change that outlook. It will ultimately still, benefit them only, but let's have a policy which is more efficient from the social perspective, from society's perspective. That's I have mentioned. So I'll just skip that. Okay, regarding renewable generation obligation, I think it's much easier to implement, specifically because we are in the concurrent list. So any central government cannot tell the states, look, you need to have certain amount of RE. But if you can always, through CRC, say to NTPC, okay, you need to have at least 5% of renewable generation obligation. I don't think, as far as my understanding of the legal situation is, you cannot question it. Over a period of time, the 5% minimum is ensured. That compliance can be ensured at the central level itself. I think that should be, pool price, of course, is already there. I think I have some time, sir? It's okay, 2 minutes, I'll just quickly do. Another very important thing, we have RPO, now we are saying RGO also. We can't live with two things. We'll have to live with either one. We keep on doing this, we'll have accounting problems and all sorts of problems. I think we can just live with either one of them. You say either it is RPO or it is RGO. Having both of them, it's not going to be highly obnoxious, but still I think it's preferable to have RGO, because RGO will work better in our case, given our kind of DNA. Okay, and there is much more role, of course, of renewable certificates. That's probably what we are going to see. Market for green power, that probably should come at some point, but we are not saying anywhere that whether that kind of green power will get any additional incentive. People want to buy it. Yeah, this last point is also very important. Is one of the reasons that REC market is facing, the two main reasons why REC market is facing challenges. One is, of course, the compliance not occurring at the distribution level, at the obligation entity level. And second reason is actually from the investment size, your PPAs are bankable, but you don't have a PPA kind of thing in REC market. This suggestion I have also given a few times, that why can't we have a REC based PPAs? You can always have, you can say fine, the price will be determined for the market, no problem about that, but it's a Q based PPA only quantity based. I'll buy so many thousand megawatt hour of REC from you, price at whatever price occurs in the market. That is possible, and that will probably be much more bankable, I'm sure. And given that we have already a floor price, with which also I don't agree, it's pretty high, but whatever is the floor price, you will still have some bankability happening there. That's all. Thank you very much, and if you are interested, there are some papers on related topic and other area also. Thank you very much.